The breast is made up of fat and breast tissue. There are lobules, lobes, and ducts, and it's normal that your breasts change over your lifetime. Now think of the lobes as like grapes, you know, like a bunch of grapes, and the duct as like the stem, okay? Now, oops, let me go back. There are different kinds of cancer now. There's something called ductal carcinoma, and that's when the duct is full of cancer cells. And then there's also something called lobular carcinoma, and that's when like the lobe is infiltrated with cancer cells. So that's typically what happens in the breast. And then when it's not detected, the cancer cells kind of grow and they burst out of the tissue. In situ means inside, it means contained. So this is when it's still contained in like the duct. It hasn't burst out yet, but see, when it does, this is invasive, also known as infiltrating carcinoma. So the breast cancer cells have burst out, and metastasis is when it has spread to other organs. So obviously, if it's intact, it's much easier to take all of it out. But once it's burst out, that's stage like 2, stage 3, and you know, at stage 4, you're just kind of like, you know, chasing where it has spread. We definitely want women to find it when it's in situ, because you have more choices for treatment. Because you know, you'd want to say, if you were ever diagnosed and the doctor says, what do you want to do? You can say, I want this, this, and this if it's caught early. But if it's at stage 4, the doctor is telling you, this is what you have to do. Because you can't stop cancer from happening in your body, but you can stop at what stage you catch it at. There are a couple of things with breast cancer that's unfortunate, that although white women are diagnosed with breast cancer more often, women of color die from it more. So African American women, Hispanic women, Asian women, Native American women, they experience a higher mortality rate. So throughout the whole world, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. 1 in 8 African American women in the U.S., 1 in 9 will be diagnosed with breast cancer. We don't know why. We don't know if it's a certain form of breast cancer, because breast cancer is a family of diseases. There's many different types. We don't know if it's something that, you know, there's one form of cancer that they're diagnosed from. We don't know if it's because they have lower screening rates. We don't know what it is. Is it cultural? Is it behavior? But women of color bear a significant burden of breast cancer mortality, and that's something, like I had mentioned, that research, you know, project, why we're studying it. So that's something that I wanted to point out to you. Now, I know you both have a smartphone, so you can just type in m.komen.org, and it's just a breast cancer 101 tool that you can find on your phone. We also have a helpline. It's actually 1-877-GO-KOMEN. Now, it's not 24/7, but you'll be connected to, it's, you know, kind of like longer hours, like, you know, like 8 to like, I don't know, like midnight or something like that. You'll get in touch with a cancer care social worker, and you know, sometimes people in the middle of the night, you know, want to talk, or you know, they have a late question that their doctor's not, you know, available, or they, you know, don't have internet. You can call and say, this is my zip code, can you help me find a clinic I can get a free mammogram. Women over 40 are our target population. Now, that's not to say young women don't get breast cancer, and unfortunately, when a young woman is diagnosed with breast cancer, it's a very aggressive form. So and another common one that happens with young women, especially Hispanic, African American, it's triple negative breast cancer. And triple negative breast cancer is kind of tricky because traditional treatments don't always work for this diagnosis. So they have to be very creative in, you know, what the doctor is prescribing. The research has said that women over 40 typically are more at risk. But so this is new breast cancer cases by age. So 40 to 50, we see 23%, but over 50, so I guess, you know, it's 77%. So when, you know, we've heard of people who are like, well, you know, I'm like, you know, 65 and my doctor says I don't need any more mammograms. And you're like, oh my God, what are you talking about? Because look, you know, over 50, that's where we see all of our our cases. So, I mean, it sucks getting old. That's a quote from my dad. You can use it. But what happens is that you know how the cell, I showed the slide with the cell, dividing. Just as we get older, the cells don't divide as great, and there's more likelihood of, mutations, and it's just our cells are just getting older. So as you get older, that's where you see most of the breast cancer cases. Breast cancer survivors make up the largest population of cancer survivors. So breast cancer is, if it's caught early, it's almost curable. And it wasn't like that. So when Susan G. Komen was diagnosed, it was only 75% survival rate, 5-year survival rate. Now it's like 99, 98%. So
That's great.
in, that many years, Komen's really been able to, make significant changes in what happens when someone's diagnosed.